Okay. So we're going to create a sod business, and through a variety of stages, we're going to help it become prosperous by using formulas. All right, so we're going to call our company Cherry Valley Sod Company for whatever reason. Okay, and we have purchased 20 acres of land to grow sod. Okay, Cherry Valley will have to build up the soil before planting, because how many of you know that sod is like grass that's planted in there and you cut it up and then you take pre-planted and grown little squares of grass, right, to landscape companies or schools or wherever. Okay, so they will place 4 inches of top dressing over the entire acreage. Okay, that top dressing, 25% will be fertilizer and fertilizer and peat, sorry, and then 75% will be topsoil. So we'll talk about how to work with these percentages here in a little bit, but first we're going to answer this question. Okay? So we're going to talk about how they did this. How many cubic feet and cubic yards of top dressing will be needed? So the first step is to determine our square footage, okay, for the entire 20 acres. So we need to know all of the area that this 20 acres covers. So this is 20 acres of land, right? And we're going to first break that down into square feet. So it gives us a conversion here that says 43,560 square feet equals 1 acre of land. So that's how much feet is in 1 acre. So if I want to know how much is in 20 acres, am I going to multiply or divide? Multiply, because if I need this to equal 20, right, I would have to multiply this side by 20. And if I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other side, right? So that's where this equation came from, figuring out the square feet. They took the amount of square feet that's in 1 acre and multiplied it by 20. So that gave us this large number right here, 871,000. Okay, I can zoom in, but it's probably easier to still read it on your paper, right? 871,200 feet squared. Okay, so we figured out the area of this 20 acres. But now we need to figure out how deep it is, because we want to go 4 inches deep. So we've already done the length times the width, because that's our area, right? Area equals length times width. So we already figured out the area of our acres in feet. So now we need to do the height, or the depth in this case. Okay? And it's going to be 4 inches deep. Well, notice that we're talking about feet. All our other units are in feet. This is in feet squared already. Okay, it took the place of my length times width. So I need my inches, 4 inches, to be in feet as well. And this is what we were doing previously. We've had other problems like this where you needed to take the inches and change it to feet. Well, 4 inches out of your total of 12 feet is where or 12 inches is where this fraction came from. Are you following me? Yes, no? Okay. I see a couple of head nods, but a few people I think might be confused. So why do we use 12? There's 12 inches in a foot, right? 12 inches equals 1 foot. Okay, so if I only have 4 of those 12 inches, then it's a fraction, because I don't have a full foot. I only have 4 inches. Does that make sense? Does that help? So that's where this 4 over 12 came from. It can be reduced. It can reduce to 1/3, but you don't need to, because it's not necessity to simplify right now. Okay? So this number right here just replaced our length times our width because we figured out the area. Okay, and length times width is area. And then the height was replaced with 4 over 12. Okay, so this is not multiplying in this problem, it's just showing you what they replaced it with. So here's our actual problem without the letters in it. 871,200 times 4 over 12. So in our calculator, we wouldn't get this fraction probably. It would automatically reduce it down to this already. So we would get 290,400 cubic feet. So the second part of the question is how much cubic yards is that? So it gives us this conversion again. But if you're not sure, if you're not sure if you need to multiply or divide, is yards, when you're thinking about the size of something, is 1 yard bigger than 1 foot or smaller than 1 foot? It's bigger than 1 foot. So if you're measuring the same amount of space, then you're going to have to divide because you should have a smaller number of yards than you have feet. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes? No, kind of? Okay. So that's how I know that I need to divide, besides the fact that it's given to me in this example right here, right? So I'm going from feet to yards, and every 27 feet only equals 1 yard, which means I need to divide all of these feet by 27 to figure out how many actual yards that is. Okay, so our cubic yard answer is 10,756 cubic yards. So when you type these in to go formative, I actually want to see this, okay, as your units. That's what will tell you it's a correct answer if you type it in correctly like that. Okay? So in these problems, make sure that you read the problem and look for units to know what to round to or know what unit it's asking you to solve for. Okay? Turn it over to the back really quick. I want to talk about problem number 5 because this one gets into what those percentages are dealing with. So problem number 5 says 2 inches of special topsoil. Okay, so that's the total that we're going to have. So we're going to have 2 inches, okay, so this is going to be 2 inches deep, right? And 25% of that is going to be fertilizer, and 75% is going to be high-grade topsoil. So that means if I had to divide this into percentages, how much of the whole thing is 25%? Can I do that as a fraction? If I'm dividing things into 25 percentages, how many sections should I have? Probably 4, right? So to make 4, I'm going to divide it in half and divide each of those halves in half. So we can have 4 sections there. Does that make sense? So one section represents 25%. Can everybody read my writing up there? Do I need to make it bigger? There's my half mark. So this right here would be 25%. Okay, so each part right here would be 25% because I divided into 25% sections. Right, and this total distance is 2 inches. So the easy way to figure this out, they give this to us, but I want you to see a visual. Okay, guys, so 25% is 0.25, right? If we want to know how deep that is, 0.25 of 2 inches. Could you take 2 inches and divide it into 4 sections? Yes, that would work too. Okay, which is what we're essentially doing here. Okay, so 2 inches times 0.25, that's where this 1/2 inch came from that they gave you. Okay? And if 1/2 inch of this 2 inches is your fertilizer and peat, let me finish this lesson. Okay. What does that leave left to be the other 75%? Right, 2 inches minus 1/2 is going to be 1.5 left over. Okay, which was the 0.75 times 2. Okay, that would give us that 1.5 inches, 1.5 or 3/2, depending on how you want to write that. So it gives you the formulas here. 0.25 times the total cubic feet. Okay, and then 0.75 times the total cubic feet to find these two, to find part of those answers. It's asking for the answer in cubic yards though, which means what do we have to do to go from feet to cubic yards? You guys remember from our first example? If you don't, it tells you in the word problem, right? Divide it by 27 to get your final answer here. Okay. You needed to know, even though they gave you this information here, you needed to understand how they got this for other problems. So that's why I showed it to you in this problem. So I already talked to you about tomorrow, meeting in room 112 in the old elementary school building. So don't come to class here. We'll be over in the old elementary school for the rest of this week at least. Okay. So work on this, get it put into Go Formative. And if you have any questions, I'll come around and help answer those questions.